Hey, it's your boy Sergeant Hooked Intentions. So we are back with part two of my personal top 10 favorite Kamen Rider seasons. This will be entries number 5 through 1. If you didn't already see part one, why are you watching part two, weirdo? Anyway, watch that part one, entries 10 through 6. Talk about those seasons. Um, Disclaimer, like I said with my last one, just because your personal favorites are not on this list does not mean that yours are in any way less or that I hate them by any means. Um, and also my ordering of where these are, for one, it constantly changes like almost every day. But does not mean that I like disliked one more than the other. It's just I had a bit more enjoyment or got more out of a certain season that's higher up than one down lower. That's all. But that's again the thing I like to stress a lot. Um, is that that's the beauty of tokusatsu, especially with Sentai and Rider and even Ultraman, I'm sure, is that there's a season for everybody. For everybody that loves one season, there's somebody that hates it. For everybody that hates that season, there's somebody that loves it. You know, I don't really like Saber all that much, except for a few scant elements of it, but people adored it too. So, everybody's opinions are valid and different. Um, and I definitely don't want there to be any kind of hatred in the comments about like back and forth, bickering about the seasons and making someone feel bad for their opinion. None of that. So, anyway, so starting off strong, we're going to talk about Kamen Rider Zero One. That's my number 5 pick. I love this season. I love the Pro Cries keys. Um, so when this season started, I did watch this week to week. And I really did enjoy it pretty much all the way through. There are elements of it that I think were not the best, but didn't make it awful. This is also one of the first seasons to be impacted by the COVID, by the pandemic. And A lot of people say, "Oh, it's not really an excuse for this and an excuse for that." Well, it kind of is. They have to be careful with their actors and make sure they're not putting them in danger of getting sick and possibly dying just because they're filming a show. So, um, but Zero One is fun. It's being the first of the Reiwa era. It really set a tone and a standard. Um, I mean, there's not like a for sure exact. I mean, like every Rider season is different than the last, but so far with Zero One, Saber, and now Revice, you can tell the differences with how they're done comparatively to what we've done with Heisei era stuff. There are similarities. Clearly, there's gimmick items. There's the Pro Guys keys. Some people make the joke with Zero One that the real gimmick item was the belts because there were so many different variations of the Rider belts. Um, but overall, it's a really fun show. There's really cool stuff going on with it too right now. On Christmas Eve, they did a special thing where they put out the entire series. They marathoned it streaming on Tokusatsu on Pluto TV. If you don't know what Tokusatsu is a thing put together by a combination of Shout Factory and Team Kamen Rider and a bunch of groups together trying to bring Rider to the West. The first thing they brought through was Kamen Rider Ichigo, subtitled on there and on Tubi TV. If you have the Tubi app, all these apps are free. Pluto TV, Tubi TV, free. Also, Shout Factory TV's website, completely free. So not only was Zero One airing there on Christmas Eve this year, but also pretty soon in January, the Blu-ray release is coming out with full subtitles and Real X Time, one of the movies as well. There's no movies past that, so we'll talk about that. Again, going forward with this list, just like I talked about last time, there will be some talk of heavy spoiler stuff. So if you haven't seen these seasons, I would recommend seeing them first and then coming back and watching this. Because I don't want to spoil things for you. I would feel bad if I did. But Zero One is a lot of fun. I like the aesthetic of the whole idea of the human gears, hidden technology, Zaya Enterprise as a competitor, the whole thing with Aruto and him not wanting to at first be the CEO and then realizing his dream of making people smile and laugh could then be transferred to helping the human gears find a way to do that for people as well. Um, and we never lose, again, a cool, strong thing with this, kind of like similar to Cure Major, is that we never lose sight of the fact that he's a comedian. He's always making these really awful, god awful puns and jokes that literally nobody laughs at except for sometimes himself, sometimes Isu, and definitely Fua. That's one of my favorite characters. Isamu Fua is like my favorite secondary writer of all time. I just really like his arc. Um, but I like Aruto's growth from the like meek little comedian who didn't know what he was doing to the full-on CEO of this company who truly takes it on the weight on his shoulders to keep not only his employees safe and his company successful, but also trying to help people understand that human gears have a heart and have sentience and can ascend, and gain can gain ascendance or whatever it is. Um, So I like most of the characters in the show. I think that Aruto and Fuwa are the strongest in my opinion, and most of Metsubo Jinrai. Um, I'm not the biggest fan of Yua Yaiba, and I'm not the biggest fan of Amatsu Gai. Again, the COVID pandemic did hit this show pretty hard. There's about five-ish episodes or three-ish episodes, some certain amount of episodes worth that are just basically clip shows that have no real plot, like not a lot of plot happening because they had to be careful around, the pandemic. And there's some endgame stuff that I think was affected by that, especially things having to do with Arc. So they talk about in the beginning of the show, there's this daybreak incident, right? And it was an incident before the show took place where these human gears went berserk and attacked people. So Hedon has been trying to like clean up their image ever since. And Fua, the secondary writer on the show, Vulcan, has a whole arc about that where he has, you find out, implanted memories of being attacked, his school being attacked by those human gears. And ever since then, he's hated them and wanted to turn the scrap, doesn't believe in them, thinks they're useless, blah, blah, blah. And so that's the arc we have going forward. The first part of it is kind of just like introducing Aruto, Fuwa, and Yua Yaba, who both Yua and Fuwa are part of AIMS, a like basically paramilitary techie group. And she creates all the technology. She creates the Shot Riser, the driver for her and Fuwa, and also works on their progress keys. And Aruto clearly has his own 01 driver and the little Zaya satellite, and then the 3D printer thing in the hidden technology place that creates all of his progress keys. So the first like little chunk of it is just clearly going through basically week to week different progress keys and introducing us to these characters and also getting us to know the villains in the group. So we have the Metsubo Jinrai. They're a terrorist group. They're also human gear. They've gained sentience mostly and are trying to, they're going by the will of the Ark. The Ark is basically this evil satellite. If Zai is the good satellite, there's this evil satellite that Amatsu Gai ended up actually imprinting malice upon and teaching it to hate humanity. And so they're following that path. It fell to the sea, and actually in the Reiwa First Generation movie, we get the full backstory of that. And that's the whole setup for the series. So it's a really good story. I feel like a lot of the characters have a really good arc. Amatsu Gai is a decent villain, but a lot of people talk about hating the competition arc. I only feel like the competition arc was too long. I liked the idea behind it of setting up this foil to Aruto, who was on the other side, and basically an evil reflection of himself and a threat to his company, because they've set up this whole competition that whoever wins gains control over the other company. And so each episode is a little 2-episode thing where we meet a human gear, they're the focus of that episode, and it's trying to like have like a little competition with them or whatever, and then he ends up clearly sabotaging it and making them become a bad guy, become a Magi or whatever it's called. So that arc is not my favorite, but I do understand what it was trying to do in terms of showing like what each of these human gear were capable of, showing how human they'd become, and elevating Aruto even further in his character arc towards becoming like, CEO and being like truly focused on this dream of like helping human gears take off towards a dream. The music in the show is fantastic. This theme song is amazing. I love the progress keys. I love the drivers. The henshin sequences are great. Pretty much everything about the show is a lot of fun. Like I said, the last little bit with Arc is not my favorite. I feel like they were probably intending on having Amatsu Gai be the final villain, and then maybe have Arc take him over. I think that would have been pretty poignant if he would have been forcibly taken over by the exact thing he created. But it's not. It's just Arc near the end, and isn't my favorite thing. Now, Real X Time, or whatever it's called, Real X Time. Yeah, Real X Time is a perfect end cap to the series. I'm not the biggest fan of the V Cinemas. I think the Metsubo Jinrai one was decent, but I don't like how they did the second one, the AIMS Project one. That's just me. But it's overall a really fun series, and it definitely holds a special place for me. I've actually completed my collection for the stuff. I try to, with rider stuff, I focus on like one rider and their main transformation gimmick. So for 01, it would be Rising Hopper, Shining Assault Hopper, Metal Cluster, and then 02 with the 02 driver unit. And actually, before I got any of the 01 stuff, I focused on Fuwa because I liked him more and I liked the Shot Riser a lot. So I actually have both of their stuff. But it's just a really fun series. I love the tech aspect of it. I love the fight sequences in it are really good. The storylines and how the characters relate to each other is really great. The arcs that all of our characters go through, for the most part, are really good. Amatsu Guy's whole thing of being redeemed is kind of but even in show, he tries to like, you know, make better on what he did and everything, and nobody really believes him, even all the way through to Real X Time. They're like, "You're full of shit." So I like that. But yeah, it's a really fun series. So that's my number 5 pick. Number 4 is a true classic, Kamen Rider Kuga. That was another one along with Ichigo that was brought over when Tokusatsu started on Pluto TV, and I think on Shout Factory TV and on Tubi. Fully subtitled out there with the Grongi subtitles. The Grongi are the bad guys in the show, and when the show originally aired, they never had subtitles for what they were saying, so it was really mysterious and weird about what the hell was even going on with them, what their plan was, unless they chose to speak in Japanese at certain points, which they sometimes do and sometimes don't. Um, but it's a really good show. It's weird because it's odd to look at it because it's like Ichigo in the way that it doesn't have any gimmick items. The belt changes depending on his form and all that, Godai's form. But there's one rider. There's no secondary rider. He goes up against all the villains himself. Ichijo, his basically boyfriend, police officer, helps him. And I like, my favorite thing about it, I think, is the connection between Kuga and the police force. That at first he's seen as like part, it's kind of like a Spider-Man thing, seen as like a menace because he's a vigilante. Then they realize he's helping and they start to support him and like build technology for him and like figure out ways to like build weapons to help fight against the Grongi also. There's actually a few times that Ichijo is the one that gets the finishing, hit blow on some of the Grongi, so I really like that. And also, it's filmed on like newsreel cameras, so it's very weird to like watch it comparatively to like shows now, Rider seasons now. The CG hasn't aged the best, but for the time, I'm sure it was impressive. Theme song is great, No Fear, No Pain, absolutely amazing. I love the suit. I actually have the Legend Series Makeover belt, finally. I wanted a Kuga belt, but the only ones they had were like the original release ones with CSM, and I'm like, that's too much. But they have this thing now called the uh, Legend Makeover Series belts, where basically it's the belt, but it's a little bit like less functional than it was originally. And it's cool. The Argo is really cool. I like that he summons it. It's like in his body. The whole like aspect of it looking technological but being biological at the same time is really cool. I love the like aesthetic to it of having like this legend behind it and this lore, these like hieroglyphics and all that stuff is really cool. Um, and that there was a Kuga before Godai, I think is really cool too. That it's like this inherited role type of thing. But it's very, it's got its funny parts, but it's very serious. It's very melodramatic. It's got some darkness to it, and it's a really like entertaining season and really hits hard. The ending theme is really good. The action scenes are great. There's really, really great scenes for all the characters. Godai is an amazing primary writer, and it's really sad because he got so popular from this. And this happens kind of a trend with writer and Sentai is they get a start here and then it's like a springboard to go do other stuff, and then they usually don't come back a whole lot. And as of right now, he's not come back for a whole lot. They actually, when they did in Decade, had the Kuga AR World. It's a different person and a different Godai. That is the Kuga in that one. So that's kind of sad, but he plays a great role. Ichido is amazing as well. The other supporting characters are good too. His one friend and some of the other supporting, scientist characters are decent. Um, and the Grongi are pretty good too. There's actually one that runs for a little bit in there that actually is his monster Grongi form is a reference to Ichigo, which is really cool. Um, but yeah, there's some really brutal fights in the show. There's some moments because Godai is a very like positive, helpful guy. He has these like 1,000 skills or whatever it's called, always trying to help somebody out and do the right thing. And he's usually pretty positive. And even when he does fight the Grongi, like he wants to stop them, but he's not like excited that he has to kill somebody. But there are moments, one in particular, where there's a Grongi that is like essentially targeting children specifically, and he finds this out that he's like poisoning and killing children, and he just goes fucking ballistic, and it's one of my favorite scenes in Rider and honestly all of Tokusatsu. The suit is iconic, the music is iconic, the driver, and it's nice again, like Ichigo, to not have something that week to week is trying to sell me a toy, even kinda, because I guess they did have toys at that time, but not in the same way of the gimmick items. I'm used to that, but it can sometimes get a little tiring when it's like, oh, well, probably not going to see that power up for a while because we got to get the new power up in there. So, it's really fun. I like his different forms. I have different weapons. You have the Titan form with a giant sword. You have Rod form with Rod. Pegasus form with the gun. and then his different, the like gold, amazing forms or whatever it is. Um, the final arc is really good. Everything about the final villain, I can't recall the name right now. Um, Dagova, yeah, Dagova is really good, and the final fight is super brutal and super good. But it's just a lot of fun. It's a really fun series, and it's cool. It's one that you if you're trying to get into Rider, you definitely should watch. I feel like is a really good first watch along with Ichigo because it gives you a nice taste of what's to come. Um, so there we go with that with Kuga. Number three is, and I don't mean to ruffle feathers with this, I just really like this season, is Xaid. I've always been a big video game fan. I've always played games my whole life. And when I found out that after Ghost, the next season was going to be Rider, was going to be like Doctor stuff, which is whatever, plus video games, I was like, huh? Really? And it works really well. Like they never lose, I don't think to me, sight of like the medical drama stuff and the video game elements. Those are always prevalent throughout the whole series. I love the vibrant ass suits and the like anime eyes. I like the goofy shit. Some people get turned off by weird shit. I like it. Don Brothers is right up my alley. So is Zenkaiger. Same thing with X8. It's vibrant as hell and fucking in your face as hell, and I love it for that. The driver is really good. The gamer driver is a super cool driver. I love that the DX version, the driver itself, doesn't have any electronics to it. It just has little mirrors in it. So when you put the gashets in, it just reflects the image through there, so you can see the little figure of the rider with the parts on them. Um, I love the theme song. The music is great. The henshin sequences. Emma is a great primary rider. I love his connection to Power DX, what we're gonna call him. And yeah, it's a really fun series. The music is great. The fight sequences are good. The story arcs for the most part are pretty decent. Um, there's a few arcs that I think just had a little bit of slow pacing on them that I think was kind of weird in my opinion. But they weren't the worst thing ever as a result. But it has some decent pacing. It does have to me way too many extra V Cinema stuff afterwards. We have like the one movie thing, the true ending or whatever it's called. And then there's a bunch of other extra stuff, and they vary in quality, honestly. But it's a really fun series. I mean, you got Kuroto Dan as a villain in there. He's a legend in meme quality, of course, but also in terms of being a villain. This also started the trope that people think continued and didn't really of shocking rider deaths, which they're rather shocking, but people think it's like this trend that like every year at Christmas someone's going to die just because of Xaid, and we need to stop that because it's just Xaid that did it. We haven't had that happen in a long ass time. We played with it with Revice recently, but it didn't happen again. So, yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's really, really good. And the suits are super vibrant. I love the whole Gashat thing being like little cartridges, basically. I even made a whole adaptation idea, actually. It's on my Twitter if you want to follow me there. Rio Soul Rider Red, Sergeant Hooked on Don Brothers, I think, right now. I have a post there somewhere. You can search my tweets of an adaptation idea for that. Um, But yeah, it's really good. The main riders are really great. Hero is really good as Brave. Snipe is decent, has a nice arc with Miko. Laser is good, and his whole, Kiria's whole death and then eventual resurrection. Um, and everything with Paradox is pretty good, and Poppy. Most of the villains are decent. Um, I I wish that uh, the like final monster thing they fight was more of a threat. Like it was a threat, but it's more of a force of nature type faceless monster thing than it is actually being a person. There's a point where it's combined with Cronus for a little bit, and that's okay. But I'm kind of tired of like faceless, forces of fucking nature creature things being the final big bad, and I'd rather it be more personal. That hits better with me for a Rider season. Um, and yeah, so that kind of bothered me, but it's still like a decent season. Very good pacing, very good action, very interesting story arcs throughout. The characters grow throughout, and overall, it's just very entertaining. A very good season. One second, just gotta make sure. Text here. It's got it's pictures of my boy when he was younger. Oh my god. Anyway, so yeah, X8 is a lot of fun. I'm not gonna ramble too much on it, but of course I have a cash out. Of course I do. Yeah, boy. Anyway, and yeah, these are great. Look at these. Look at those little fucking gamer on the side, and like, there it is. Like if you know how you can display games and kind of put them on their side or whatever. and you can see like the name of the game right there. I love that. I love that. The design of these are so cool. And also it holds a special place in my heart because it was the first season I bought a driver. I'd never bought a driver before because the first season I watched was Ghost. I didn't know you could at that point. And funny story with that with Xaid. I looked online trying to find this stuff. Looked on Amazon, and my original set I got, which was the DX Gamer driver along with Xaid's Gashat, was supposed to be like 70, 75 bucks, but I qualified for some credit card or something and it made it free. So I was like, all right. um, but yeah, it's a really fun season. Like I said, it's really, really, really good. One quick second here. Just gotta respond to this real quick. All right. Anyway, so yeah, so that is Xaid. My number two, I struggled with this one and the next one, putting them where they sit in my list here. But my number two, I'm pretty confident on that one, is Kamen Rider Build. This is one of my very favorite seasons. It's one I can rewatch and have a grand time every time I watch it. Um, and it's just very entertaining. I like that it deals with a lot of things like mental health type things, a lot of psychological things. There's a lot of sides of it of talking about the horrors of war, depression, being like traumatized, PTSD type things, and it's really fun in that way that it can deal with those things and still make a really entertaining season, and not it doesn't feel bogged down by that, and it balances itself nice with the more lighter elements because there's still humor in it, there's still fun action transformation sequences and all that, but the story elements can be serious and can tell this grand story that really hits pretty hard. um, Sento is an amazing primary rider, as is Banjo Ryuga. um, Now I will quickly touch on, yes, I do think that they kind of are a couple. That's just my opinion. Not everybody feels that way, but come on now. But I love his whole aesthetic, the whole story behind him of not being who he thinks he is, that he's mind wise. The devil scientist, oh, what's his name now? I can't remember, but the guy that like created all the stuff, and body wise, this other random dude put together as like a new person basically. And I like that whole backstory to that. I love Banjo's whole arc of like feeling like he's, ousted from everywhere, and that everybody thinks that he's responsible for the murder of his girlfriend, and continually getting stronger. His connections to evil is really good. Um, Grease is an amazing tertiary or third rider, whatever you want to call it. He does a great job in it, and I love his forms. Especially, I really do like his V Cinemas. Um, and yeah, so he's really great, and he has a nice little arc. I love each arc of the show is a lot of fun. The first arc leading up to Rabbit Tank Sparkling, the other arc, the like fighting. Because like in the show, the whole story of it is that Japan was split into three like areas because of the skywall thing that happened. They bring back Pandora's box basically from Mars, and somebody touches it, and it throws out all this power, hurts some people, whatever, and then maybe can kill somebody. I don't know. And then it split everything called the skywall, and it split Japan in like three areas. Saito, Hokuto, and Tato or Taito, something like that. And there's a whole arc where they're like battling with each other for a while. That one's really good. Pretty much every arc of the show I think is really good. I wasn't the biggest fan personally of the arc with uh, Sento's dad coming back into it. That didn't really do a lot for me, and it was a really long, drawn out way, in my opinion, just to get to the next arc. Evalt is my all time favorite villain. He is chaos embodied. He has so much charm in him, and especially finding out that he took control of Misora's dad. I think that's really cool. But that whole arc is really good. Evalt's really great. His suits are amazing. The drivers and the suits in the show are so cool. I love the whole, full bottle. I actually have some of these are packed away because we're moving soon. But the full bottle aesthetic is really cool. The little like mix and match thing. Rabbit Tank, best match. Are you ready? Like, yes. Um, and I like the upgrade path we go on as far as builds original Rabbit Tank form, Rabbit Tank Sparkling, the Hazard trigger forms, and then eventually Rabbit and Tank, and then eventually Genius form. I love all of them, honestly. Banjoswarmers are decent. I really like most of them. I'm not a big fan of the one crossing Evolve form. Like I can't remember the Muscle Galaxy. His fun one in the final V7 was great, but the one in the middle, like before he gets Crossy Magma, is not my favorite. He like takes the one Dragon Evolve bottle and it does a weird form for him, and I like that one. Most of Grease's forms are decent. He really just has Grease and then Grease Blizzard and then eventually Perfect Kingdom. Those are great. Um, I really like Gentoku's arc starting off as a villain and becoming more heroic. I really like that. His whole arc is really, really good. Um, and yeah, so our four main riders are great. I love Sento, I love Banjo, I love Kazumine, I love Gentoku. Supporting characters are decent. Misora is probably the strongest. Right behind her, I think it's Sawa, the one reporter lady, is good too. Most of the villains are pretty good too. I mean, once Evault takes over as main villain, he's the best, honestly. Um, so yeah, it's just overall a fun series. The theme song is great, the music's great, the fight sequences, the comedy is just absolutely top tier, and I like how it can stand toe to toe with the heavier elements that happen. I mean, there's the whole arc with Sento where he uses the Berserk uh, hazard form and ends up killing somebody, doesn't realize it, realizes he did, and just it shatters him. Fun fact, if you didn't know this, when they film that scene when he realizes he's killed somebody and he's like all disheveled or whatever for a while and looks like shit and like depressed, the actor actually went through, he was a big fan of Monster Hunter, maybe still is, I don't know, actually went home in between filming and played it for like hours and hours and hours on end to be super tired and like out of it to fit the role better and like look better for the what they were trying to portray in the show. Perfect. um I love Banjo's arc of like eventually becoming a rider. It wasn't right away. Sometimes rider does that where too quickly we get a secondary rider. um Depends on the show. I was fine with it how it happened in Zero One, but like certain shows, it just takes it's either it's way too quick. I like it to take a little longer, to get that secondary rider in there. But yeah, his arc is great. Kazumine's is really great. As is Gentoku's becoming from going from a villain to becoming more of a heroic character. But yeah, it's just a really fun series. I really like Build, and I just really, really enjoy it. And I finally have a driver for that. I'm really excited that I finally have the Build driver. So my number one is Kamen Rider Forze. This is one that I knew I wanted to watch, but I just waited a long time to watch it for some reason, and I'm glad that I watched it because it's like if like John Hughes or like whoever does the who is it the guy that does uh the MCU Spider-Man movies, that director, if he were to do a writer season, that's what it feels like. It's very much so centered on these young kids. It's set in a high school. You have Gentaro, as the main writer as Forze. You have Meteor and Meteo. Ready? You have Meteor in it as a secondary writer. The villains are really good. I love the whole like astrology aspect to it. The zodiac thing to it is really cool. Um, I really like the theme song is kick ass. It makes me want to fucking fight somebody on the street every time I hear it. Um, uh, the suit is great. I love Forze's suit, and I love all his forms, honestly. I like Cosmic States a lot. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Magnet one, but I don't hate the suit. It just wasn't my favorite out of all his suits. Um, Meteors is pretty good too. Fusion States is a suit, but I do like Meteor Storm, unlike a lot of people who don't for some reason. Um, but it just does a really good job of like it tells you up front what it's about: friendship, bonds, family, family. Friendship, bonds, family. Being set in the high school setting. The like staff all having their different roles in it. There's the one like goofy comedic relief guy who eventually gets to join the group, kind of, and be a supporter of their group. Um, there's like the guidance counselor lady who's actually secretly part of the bad guys. There's the principal who's actually secretly part of the bad guys. That whole story aesthetic thing is really cool. Guntaro's one friend, I can't remember his name. Off the top of my head, but the one who's like kind of physically not like the best, like he gets really tired really quickly. His whole arc is really amazing, and how that all ends up and how he was created was really cool. And overall, it's just a really fun show. Each member of his group that joins, Jake, Shun, everybody that joins has their role on the team. And yes, not all of them, none of them really, besides Meteor, get to transform, but they all have their own role on the team. They're all helping in some way and coming up with some kind of a plan to help Forze. And I like that. I like that we didn't make everybody a rider. We just instead gave them rider responsibilities, but challenged them being just human to take care of that responsibility. And that's really cool. And it just has a lot of heart. You know, I like the whole aesthetic that he looks like a bully type character with the pompadour and all that, but he's the opposite entirely. He flips that on his head that he actually wants to befriend everybody. Instead of bullying everybody, he wants to befriend. His whole thing is he wants to, you know, befriend everybody in Amanagawa High School, and I like that. I'm actually planning on getting a Forza Kamen Rider Club logo thing right here on my forearm tattoo. But it's just really fun. I love the whole aesthetic of the Kamen Rider Club, the secret club that's just them, and it's for them to go to the rabbit hutch that lets them go to the moon or whatever it is to, like, you know, talk about the switches and the astral switches and all that. I like the little gimmick of the astral switches. There's a few too many in my opinion, but I understand, like, they have to sell toys and stuff, and that's fine. But I love it. It's very slick. It's very well put together. There doesn't, to me, feel like a certain arc of it that, you know, overstates its welcome. And in general, it's just a lot of fun, and you want to just binge it, especially now that it's done airing clearly for years now. Being able to find it and watch it is awesome. But yeah, it just holds a special place in my heart. It's a really fun series, one that, like, definitely made me happy, brought me to tears at certain points, and in general, I really identified with and had an effect on me as a viewer. So, so yeah, that's my top 10 right there. That's numbers 5 through 1. So to review quickly, we have, one second here. Number 5 was 01. Then Kuuga was number 4. Ex-Aid number 3. Number 2 was Build. And number 1 was Force. Yeah, so that kind of ends that one. I can kind of do, I guess, some honorable mentions. I did really enjoy Zi-O. There are some goofy parts within it, but I understand that they were held back by how many people they could get back. But I think that they also should have maybe ironed that out pre-production. Like, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, like, I understand that in Japan it's different, and, like, there's certain goofy contracts and people that are held to and whatever. But I mean, I feel like you could have ironed that out to not have, like, it feels like they sometimes waited right before an episode aired to, like, figure out and get it ironed out if they're going to have an actor come back for it. But overall, Zi-O is a lot of fun. I really like it. I have the Jiku driver and most of the things for it. And actually today, I think, should be coming in the mail, the Grand Zi-O ride watch. So really excited about that. Been wanting that for a while. I love that thing. That it plays, its fucking jingle for it is connecting every jingle from Kuuga through fucking Zi-O as the jingle for it. It's so obnoxious. I love it. So that's an honorable mention. Drive is another honorable mention. I do like Drive. I think it was fun. It's not one that I go back and rewatch a bunch, but I have seen it and I did enjoy my time with it. I like the suits for the most part, and seeing him show up in the, like, team ups and stuff is a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Double is a lot of fun as well. I do really like that, the suits in that. I love Axel and you know, clearly Double himself. And most of the villains. Trying to think. Let's see here. I don't know if there's a lot of other ones that would be honorable mention, but anyway, so that's my top 10 there. Time to review through all of it from last video. It is number 10, Den-O. Number 3 is V3. Or sorry, number 9 is V3. Number 8, Ichigo, original Kamen Rider. 7 is O's. 6 is Decade. 5 is 01. 4 is Kuuga. 3 is Ex-Aid. 2 is Build. And number 1 is Force. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. What was your favorite season or seasons? Do you have your own top 10? What did you think of my list? You know, were there different things you liked about the seasons that I did or that I didn't mention? Was there things you didn't like about them that I didn't mention maybe? As far as content soon, I'm hoping I can do a little bit more. We're probably going to be moving pretty soon because we accepted an offer on our house and got the inspection report back and all that stuff. So things are moving kind of quick. So if there is, like, a lapse in content, that's why, and I'll try to do some catch-up reviews on Zenkaiger and Revice if I can. Yeah, definitely want to keep up with content. If there's some shows you guys want me to look into, some seasons I should watch, or some new stuff I should look into, or a new, you know, Toku toy of some kind you want me to do for a Toku toy review, that's fine. I am trying to hopefully maybe do something with Spider-Man No Way Home. I know that's not really Toku, but kinda, I guess, sort of, with, you know, Toei Spider-Man. But yeah, so again, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing the videos. That all is really good stuff. I really appreciate all you guys. We're 246 subscribers strong, which is insanity to me. I never intended on having any more than I started with, and holy cow, not even been a full year. But this year has been amazing, and I really thank you guys for it. It's been a lot of fun to have my content out there and people to talk about it here and there, and to be able to, be proud of my work. I do plan on doing more of my editing to have like more images show up and music and things like that. It's just having the time to do that has been tough recently. But yeah, I appreciate you guys like hell. You guys are definitely friends, for sure. All of you good subscribers out there. If you haven't subscribed, think about it. If you'd like to, subscribe for more awesome Toku content here. But as always, stay hooked on Henshins. I probably won't make another video before the end of the year, so have a nice New Year's. Stay safe. Have a good time. Maybe make sure you mask up in your vaccine and stay away from people that are sick, and maybe don't even go out in public. I don't know. It's your choice. But I'll see you guys next year. And until next time, stay hooked on Henshins. Stay safe. I love you. Bye-bye.